Hey everybody, it's John from the Chainwax Podcast. Oh, this is the first thing I saw this morning on Instagram. We're trying to create products that don't create this sort of waste. You can see this is some company's solution to a problem, and you can see there it involves garden hoses and chemicals sprayed all over your bike and motorcycle. So the goal was to not only eliminate this, but eliminate all the crock pot nonsense. And there's some things I want to share about that later on. Another video came out with some guy's home brew, and he inadvertently showed the truth about what a hassle it is and how much of a mess it is. Oh, sorry about that. I normally don't get calls this early. So basically, a lot of products, I'm showing this because it's very excessive and just how much is running off into the gutter of whatever this stuff is. Hey, it might be biodegradable, might not be. If it's not harmful to the environment, it's very wasteful of a product. And so, I set out to solve all these problems. My dad taught me how to clean my bike chain when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, okay? And, he basically said to never ride the bike with a dry chain, always put oil on it, this and that. And I would just oil it and wipe it down with a rag. And this is on my old Schwinn, obviously.
I feel like waxing your bike chain is almost the cycling equivalent of joining a cult. No one's actually asked, but here we are. For over a decade, I've just used this green Finish Line chain oil on my bikes, and I was happy. But I was living in ignorance. I didn't know.
So, yeah, this is a person that's gone to wax. He's done it himself, going from the stuff off the bike store shelves that, very low price stuff that doesn't work. And, his experience is basically how I started out about 12 years ago, or maybe a little more than that now, of, using some paraffin wax on a crock pot. And then you get all the shedding, and he shows all the other problems with it.
Breaking in the chain was a right pain. So once you pull it out of the wax and leave it to dry, it goes rock solid.
So yeah, the breaking in the chain thing is the first thing you notice, and then he's going to talk about the shedding, and then he's going to talk about the rusting. I'm going to show some clips of his actual footage here.
So much, but you rust again, then you can re-wax. For example, this chain, I got back in from a wet ride, but then had to rush out for the afternoon, so it sat for a couple of days, and it rusted so much, but you can bring them back. So I boiled it in water for about 10-15 minutes. All
right, so you can see the chemistry going on here that I've pointed out in other videos. Not only does his wax chain rust on the outside, which means it's probably pretty well rusted on the inside that you can't see until you take it apart. Then once you take it apart, your chain's no good, right? So you want to prevent the rust from happening at all. That's sort of goal number one when you come up with a crockpot wax formula, which a lot of these companies haven't even solved that. Okay, and they're charging you premium prices. So then he goes straight to boiling it on the pot, which down there at the bottom of the pan could be hundreds and hundreds of degrees, which causes all kinds of problems with the metal and causes crystalline structures to form within the metal. You got the deheat treating going on from the factory. These chains are heat treated to certain specs, like very some short parameters of how fast to cool and all these things. And you're basically taking it out and letting it cool slowly, and you're putting it past the point of where a stainless steel heat treated chain should be. Should never exceed over 300 degrees, just so you know.
Barely improved. So I pulled over to the side of the road and just look at the chain. Because of the cold, it was like 2 or 3 degrees. The wax embedded inside had become so...
All right, so there's a problem with wax dip chains. You get so much on the outside where you don't need it. And it's very stiff compound that can cause this. This makes horrible shifting. It's very, very dangerous. And then you get a misshift, and then you actually damage your chain by putting pressure through a misshift chain. We all know about that.
Breaking the links was a pain, wax chips got everywhere, and riding over the winter because of the kind of rust issue, I found myself re-waxing once a week in some cases. Plus, I ditched the PTFE powder and made up a new batch with paraffin.
So you can see just how many things so far he's unhappy with. He talks about the shedding of the chain too. Let me get to that clip.
Breaking the links was a pain, wax chips got everywhere, and riding over the winter because of the kind of rust issue, I found myself re-waxing once a week for stiff, right? So that's the old formula. This is the new one with the microcrystalline wax. Again, I haven't broken any of the links, and you can see it's already kind of bending.
So yeah, these problems, I suffered some of these problems right away. I came up with formulations in the crockpot to get around them. It's still shed way more than I would like. It gets on your bike, it melts into your frame in the sun, and you wind up just having wax chips all over your back wheel, all over your back chain stays, and all over the road and everywhere you go. You're leaving a little trail of wax dust with particles. So yeah, I'm back. It's been a couple days since I started this. So yeah, I don't want a trail of stuff following me around on the house, in the trainer. I've had a lot of customers tell me about the mess that is created in their house on the trainer bikes. Quite a few guys have shifted over to my Smoothlu 5311 on their trainer bikes for that reason, and that reason alone. Plus they don't have to take the chain off ever again, which a wax dip chain requires constant maintenance. And realistically, you can't go more than 150 miles on any wax chain without starting to feel it. You just can't. There's some claims of some new products coming out that maybe do a little more than that, maybe even double that, but it's still a weekly chore at the very least. And the shedding is still there on all of them, just wax dust everywhere. Yeah, make a snowman out of it eventually. It's a lot, and I went through that for years. That was, I finally realized that the alcohol, like really strong alcohol, like 90% in a spray bottle, helps get that wax off your rear wheel, especially if you have rim brakes. And, the wax isn't that bad compared to like oil, but it's still not ideal. You still want to be in control of what goes on your bike and where, and wax shedding all over your rear derailleur, all over your rear rim and your rear chain stays is something that's a mess. And speaking of dandruff, this is sort of like a little segment I've been wanting to do for a couple months now. Stuff that's sort of bike related, but not. Stuff for after the ride, but not. Here's something that I found on accident. Well, my girlfriend found it. And, after the ride and the dust and the sweat, my hair and scalp with wearing the helmet, it was really bad. My hair used to be pretty healthy before I started riding every day a while ago with the training. And just all of a sudden my hair was having a lot of problems. I'll leave it at that. But I finally found something that actually is something you wash your hair every day. And it's really, in 50 years, this is the best shampoo I've ever found. And it's not even expensive. And they have this secret ingredient in it called argan oil. And I looked it up, and I was pretty impressed with what it is. From a nut in Africa. And it is something that your hair will feel like you're a teenager again. And I just wanted to share this little segment of bike-related products for people that do mountain biking and even road cycling if you're in the sun all day. There's just stuff I've found. And I found a lot of this past year. So I figured I'd share some of these little tips, like a tips and tricks section. But this stuff is super, well, it's inexpensive. And it's available at grocery outlet of all places. And then you see people reselling it on eBay for a lot of money. Like they'll sell it for like $25. But it's about $4. And again, in all the years I've been riding and, had long hair and bands and stuff, I can't believe how good this stuff is for after the ride. Your hair feels clean. Your hair feels, I don't know, if you've suffered any of these things I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. I just used to regret the shower afterwards and just destroying my hair with the crappy shampoos. I've tried everything, but this stuff here, like you can see the price, they resell it for crazy amounts of money. So I don't know why I guess that's what they do, but you can find it for $4 at grocery outlet. Really good. Wanted to share that. Something for after the ride, make you feel like a human again. And the other thing, I just did it yesterday, is I'm going to be sharing my muscle recovery secrets. Something I found from let's see, how do I say this? I found it at Calabasas Saddlery. So it's something that's designed for horses. They also have a line for humans, but I found the stuff for horses is so powerful on humans. And I've talked to the people about it, and they said, yeah, it's not a problem. A lot of athletes use this. So I'll be sharing that on the next video, a product that helps with recovery so much. Better than anything I've ever used, and there's no real side effects at all. There's no downside. There's no side effects because it's natural. But it comes from the Dead Sea. So that's a little hint there. The main ingredient comes from the Dead Sea. So we'll talk about that in the next one. One of my customers, John, has found a new use for his 5311 product. He's put it in a surgical type syringe here, and he's using it to lube certain parts on his bike for precision lubrication. This is the 5311 that he's drawn into a syringe, and he's doing things like his shifter cables, the housing. He's doing... I got a little distracted there. I heard another mouse. We got the mice in the house again, and I just caught one. So I'll be letting him go in a minute. Yeah, really glad. I don't know, still can't figure out where they're coming in. The house is sealed up as best as we can figure, but they're coming in from somewhere. So anyway, but this is a good idea. I've done this in the past, and the thing about the product is that when you want to get it into a tight place, it's good to put a drop of alcohol on that spot. I'm trying to think of an example here real quick. But let's say you want to turn your bike upside down and get a squeaky stanchion to go away. The stanchion is most of my bikes are Kashima or the Diamond Light coating, the DLC coating that go into the crown. And, it's a very, very tight tolerance there. So the way to draw the product in is to put a couple of drops of alcohol and then put this on, and the alcohol will draw it in rather than trying to force it in with pressure. But you can do it either way. And then you can also put a little alcohol after you've sort of worked it in to push it in further, and maybe do that two times. So alcohol... The original chain prep formula works great for this too. It's a lower build and it'll get in tighter places. Doesn't have the waxes in it that the 5311 does. So there's areas where the chain prep is actually really good, and it's waterproof, and it has some particles in it to keep things quiet over time in the dust. So the alcohol will draw it in almost like a liquid wrench. And then you can put alcohol behind it to push it in further, and just let gravity do the work, basically. So I do that same technique on all my padlocks to get it into all the internal mechanisms of a padlock that just become really hard to turn the key after a while with all the dust around the barn and stuff. Just the locks just get in the sun. They just get so hard to turn. You put this stuff in, it'll last a couple years. I did the combination lock on the tack room 2 years ago, and it finally needed to be redone after being used every day, 2 or 3 times a day, for 2 years, just one application. And so this is a great way to do it using a syringe. I'm glad you shared this picture. It's a good thing to share with everybody else. There's not a lot of other products that really work well doing this, because the formulations they have are emulsion, so it's mostly water going into the area, which makes it not ideal for doing a shifter cable. There is no water in our product, none. And there's a small trace amount in some of the ingredients that are already in the ingredients, but there's no added water. The water in our product is less, it's a single digit percentage. That's all I can say about that. It's very, very low. And as the alcohol evaporates away, it takes the water with it. All right, so downhill season's around the corner. We have the shot bottles of the original formula. This is the original formula that was designed for my downhill bike, and it was called the no crockpot formula initially. It's gonna, it's basically our bike park formula. If you're riding a lift, you're not pedaling a lot, this will get around the problem of a chain building up with dirt without a lot of pedaling to shed it away. And having said that, I've gone to the bike park on one of my trail bikes. I was up there, I was actually up there looking at a house in Fawnskin, and I brought a trail bike. I wound up spending a few days there, and I wound up going to the bike park on Friday when they opened to ride the lifts, and I only had my trail bike with 5311. It did just fine in the same fluffy dust too. But this stuff is really designed for the really low pedaling, almost no pedaling situation that a downhill bike can sometimes have for many miles on a downhill trail, and not able to shed itself clean with the mechanical motion of pedaling. So this is now in the shot bottle. If I forgot to say that, we have the 16 ounce bottle that's available. I think it's around $34. I can't remember, but it's really good for bike park season right around the corner. And we also have the Formula 1.2 for people that are interested. Those are the 2 new shot bottles. Yeah, the Formula 1.2 is also in a shot bottle for around the same price. And this would be your all-around, all-purpose formula for most pedal bikes. Until you get into really intense training, that's when you would need the 5311. Or if you just want to, lube your chain a little less often, 5311 goes a little farther, a lot farther than the 1.2. The Formula 1.2 stays almost as clean as the bike park formula. That's why it's still in the lineup. It still stays super clean, like the original bike park formula I just showed you, at a lower price point, where the 5311 does, it's got race, endurance, road biking in mind, XC racing in mind now for the final development, and started out a road bike formula. It's now an all-purpose, all-bike formula. People were using it on their e-bikes, and it held up fine, but we optimized the e-bike line, having seen what people were doing with our formulas. People were using the bike park formula on their e-bikes too, back there in the background. So we developed the bike park formula, but the 1.2 is for pretty much everybody. We have it in a shot bottle. It'll last you it never goes bad. If it does dry out, you leave the cap off. You just add some alcohol, set it in the sun. Set it in the sun first, add some alcohol, shake it up, let it cool down, and it'll bring itself back. You don't have to do much. It doesn't ever get ruined by freezing either. So our emulsion, we don't have a 75% water emulsion like most of these lubes, and some of them are even more than that. The ones that are wax dust in a bottle with water and emulsifiers and sell crock pots and stuff, their product is mostly water, guys. Water is not good for your chain, and it takes a long time to dry. Ours contains no added water, and the new formula, the original formulas are now in the shot bottles as well. So we have the Chain Prep, the 5311, and the Darkmatter. The only one we don't have in the shot bottle yet is the Uber Clear. I'm working on that. The new formula will flow well out of a big bottle now, so we're going to get some of that made up soon. All right, so real quick note, they made a bunch of changes without my authorization to the website checkout page. And, you know, they made some, I've already called them and talked to them and called them on Sunday. And, you know, they made 5 changes to my website on the checkout page. So if you see that and you're having any problems, just give me a call. It's pretty self-explanatory entering the credit card and stuff. But the notification emails you get, that's all different now. I have nothing to do with me. They're writing paragraphs thanking you from them, not from me. Not happy about that. I liked being able to send you guys a personal message with all the links for the application video and stuff. All of that is gone now. So I'll have to be, in the meantime, sending a separate email with all the links and your tracking number. The tracking number is not showing up on the receipt from my website. You know, the shipping notification email that you get. So I'll have to do an outline of a new letter today to send out to people with their current tracking information for any sales that came in after Friday. This change took place right before the weekend, and yeah, so I'm waiting to hear back from them. Told them, put it back the way it was. I never authorized this, and a few other words, and we'll see what they do. I just can't wait to migrate this whole thing to Shopify, and that's got a problem unto itself with the templates don't line up correctly. And I'm definitely not an IT guy. I'm just a mountain biker that used to be a BMXer and quit riding dirt bikes because they were too dangerous. Had too many close calls on those things, and I went, that's it. Saw a guy die right in front of me too that year. 2 guys going up opposite ends of a like 50-foot tabletop at the same. I watched it, and they in midair hit, and one of the guys died, and that was out in Riverside. It's all track homes out there now where that used to be by the rock quarry. But you know what? It was. Then I went to Pismo. I looped it out. No, I sent it off a Razorback about, I don't know, 100 feet, more than that, 100. It was far on my quad. Okay, very unstable. And I looked back and went, wow, I thought that was a flat top at the top of that hill, and it was a Razorback. And I landed about 100 feet down the hill. It was brutal impact. And then I looped it out in Riverside on my 250R doing a hill climb. And I went, okay, I went home after that. My bike sat for a month, and I realized, yep, I'm fine just riding these trails on my mountain bike here. I don't need all this anymore. I'm not a teenager anymore. So I sold all the dirt bikes, and mountain bikes has been my thing ever since. I was too big for the BMX bike, and mountain bikes were super fun. Got into downhill right away, and yeah, that's been the story there. So yeah, I'm definitely not an IT guy, and these computer problems are very annoying, especially when you don't see them coming. And I hope it doesn't hinder the sales. That's the one thing I really don't like. Them changing things. And this has happened to me with Amazon for years. For the last almost 20 years selling on Amazon, they would change stuff. I'd call them up, go, hey, you know, not a good change. And they'd put it back 9-10 times out of 10. And, you know, now AI has taken over all of this stuff, it seems. They're just, I don't understand why there's so many changes happening to all the platforms at the same time. But if you're experiencing that, plus the constant phone messages of you need to re-verify this and re-verify that and re-verify, it's a full-time job keeping up with this again. And I'm sorry if it causes any checkout problems out of my hands. This is our Darkmatter T-shirt. It helps support our company by advertising for us. I'm not making anything on it. I think it's just $16 for this one. And I think the other one's $17 because it's a different shirt, but they're both high quality. And like and subscribe. It helps us out. Even if you just do it and don't listen, it just helps me out big time. Keep this thing going. So thanks for watching, and I'll cut this short. It's been a while since I put one out. I thought I'd throw together what I started last week and give you guys something to listen to for a Monday morning. And I hope you have a great week and get some rides in. Like and subscribe if you can. That would be great. And even better, leave a comment if you're using the product. Just leave anything, a thumbs up, anything. Just comment for the algorithm. It really